Hello, my name is Ram Overset Tex. Welcome back to our channel. I'm here to talk to you about strip mall signs. You know, those things that you see when you're in the desolate landscape of America. When I thought of this video, I told one of my friends, Dante, follow him on Instagram. I told him about it and he sent me this picture. And then I was in LA and I saw the same exact dentist sign, but this time in blue. And I was like, okay, why is it the same? How does this place in LA look the same in Texas, look the same in Louisiana? Why does it look the same? You know that meme where it's like boomers were like, how come people don't go outside anymore? The outside boomers make, and I'm like, this place. I mean, maybe the answer is people are lazy, or is there like a secret cabal of design, like a design council that's like, okay guys, we're gonna just use these 10 fonts for every single shop in the United States. Right out of the gate, I'm not here to make fun of the businesses themselves that use this design, okay? I know a lot of you guys are snobs. I actually love these signs, okay? I think there's a story. I think every sign tells a story, and collectively, all of these signs tell a story of America, of American capitalism. You're probably thinking like, what? How do you know? How are you getting all that out of these signs? Well, because I researched this way too much and thought about it way too much. But this is the video. This is the story of why strip mall signs look like that. The video. The culprit is this thing. It's the car. But how do we go from the car to these signs? Okay, how did we get to that? Well, we have to go back to the past, and the past being around 1890. We're here. We're in the 1890s. There's just there's like two things to do, which is go to work and, I don't know, light a candle. Actually, I think they had bulbs by then. But you see, how American cities were built back then was everything was close together. Everything was close together because, well, we had a horse. There was only horse. There was only horse to get to places. And the roads were bad. The roads were garbage. They were garbage. You had to live close to where you work. If you lived in the city where you needed to work, where you needed to eat, everything was close. That's crazy. Like, they were all 15 minutes away, probably. Walking distance. That is unheard of. That's like a fantasy for us now. I wish cities were built like that, but they're not. That's how cities were built back then. But then technology happened.
Everything in life is somewhere else, and you get there in a car.
Fun fact, the streetcar and car were actually developed around the same time. First streetcar was actually built in Richmond, Virginia in 1887, and the first commercial powered car was in 1896. Actually, the streetcar was more popular than the car, because the car was expensive. So streetcars were the thing. It was cool. That was a new cool thing. And actually the car never really caught on, and we just had public transportation forever. That was a joke. That didn't happen. So land developers started buying up land outside of the city center, outside of downtown, because, you know, land is cheap. Nobody wanted to live out here. Because they couldn't get there. Now with the streetcar, people could live further away from the city. People just started living further away from downtown. For example, in LA, along these streetcar lines, actually, like, a lot of neighborhoods started popping up. So this is when the suburbs were created. Actually, the suburbs don't really have a proper definition. It's not an actual zone. The definition of it is that it's just a place that's just zoned for residential. That's the proper term, but it's not officially recognized, at least by the U.S. government, that it's like a place. So a lot of land developers bought a lot of cheap land in hopes that the streetcar lines would extend into them. But when you buy this land, you have to pay taxes. There's this thing called taxes, and you have to pay them when you buy land. So to pay for the taxes, so they built very cheap buildings. They built very cheap buildings across these strips of land that's right next to the streetcar lines. And these are called Taxpayers Strips. And these shops are kind of like the grandfather of like our modern strip malls. But a lot of these buildings were kind of crappy. They're not good. They were not built good. In contrast to the downtown shops, they were just garbage because, you know, they were not built to last. They're all for efficiency. They're all kind of built to just sell you things. So at this point, the cities were growing at a steady rate outwards. They're growing outwards, and it was all nice and dandy, you know. But then this guy happened, and this thing happened.
Car that takes you anywhere you want to go. The Model T. Strong, sturdy, with a will of its own.
Yep, Henry Ford happened, and the Model T kind of ruined all that. It kind of ruined all that. You know how crazy the car was? It was selling like gangbusters. Is that the proper word? It was selling gangbusters. The Model T Ford came out in 1908. Cost $825. That's $26,977.50 in today's dollars, adjusting for inflation. By 1927, it fell to $290. $290. So from $825 to $290. And that's like $9,000. $290 in 1927 is now $9,483,000 today. So that's kind of a deal. That's kind of a good deal. And so the car ownership skyrocketed in the middle class. Like everybody had a car. Cause like now I'm like, oh, why would I take the streetcar with all these peasants when I could have this cool ass car? Does it look cool? But with the car came problems. There's too many cars on the road now. It's kind of a problem that will never leave. Now, urban planners and developers had to figure out where to put all these cars, because how are you going to get to the businesses if you can't park your car? So this is when they developed all these things, you know, they started pushing back the buildings further away from the road to make space for parking. Funny thing is that retail wasn't really profitable back then. Like, according to the census in 1929, there was 1.5 million businesses. Only half of business owners even made a living wage, and that's the person who owns it. The guy can't even pay himself. But that changed with the car. And developers trying to get a little crazy. Imagine this. They created a place. With free and ample parking. And you just kind of drive in and park your car and then go shopping. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, well, that sounds normal now, but people back then in 1929 didn't know what the fuck that was. And that's called the DriveIn Market. Literally one of the first drive-in markets in 1932. It was called the Yay Marketplace in Los Angeles. It was the first drive-in market over there. How crazy the drive-in market was. It attracted 11,000 different cars from like 34 states. Imagine driving across the country to park your car and go shopping. What? That's crazy. If you thought the Taxpayers Strip was a grandfather of strip malls, the drive-in was kind of the grandmother. You know, it has like nice warm cookies in the form of parking for you. This is the Yay Marketplace. You can see there's like a U shape. Buildings were kind of getting crazy. They're getting a little kooky, and like the shapes are going in like really fun shapes to accommodate for all this parking. So there's this one it's called the Park and Place in Washington, D.C. And it's an L shape, and doesn't that look familiar? Doesn't that, like, literally look at it? It looks like it could be like that today. Actually, it is like that today. It didn't change. As you can see, that we're already kind of in the era of today, because like this kind of architecture that very common today. But where do the signs? Where does graphic design fit into this? Well, see, the thing is, a lot of these buildings were built for efficiency, stripped away with any discerning personality. The architectural record in 1930, they said this about this new shopping center style.
A store sells merchandise, not architecture and equipment. The design of the store and the display equipment should be subordinated entirely to the purpose of displaying merchandise to its best advantage. Self-expression, monumental, and picturesque efforts are out of place.
A lot of it followed the modernist trend of form follows function. And the function is to sell. And this machine to sell was the strip mall. One of the most famous developer at the time, his name was Don Castro, and his architect C. Melvin Frank. They actually created a lot of like the aspects of shopping centers that you know now. Like they made the driving lane at the front of the store so you could like, you know, window shop. They actually wanted to make it really boring. Called it plain modern. Castro had this to say that if you Williamsburg it up, it will scare off a lot of plain folks. In terms of like architecture of the building, nice ornate details, get that out of here. What the heck? A place that actually being in a place where you actually want to be and just walk around? No, you got to go inside the shop and buy something. You get people's attention, you get them with the signs. Since it's so set back away from the road, graphic design has to step in. Venturi and Scott Brown in their book Learning from Las Vegas actually had this to say:
Its architecture is neutral because it can hardly be seen from the road. Both merchandise and architecture are disconnected from the road. The big sign leaps to connect the driver to the store, and down the road, the cake mixes and detergents are advertised by their national manufacturers on enormous billboards inflected towards the highway. The graphic sign in space has become the architecture of this landscape.
They actually created this thing called, there's like these two kinds of buildings that Venturi and Scott Brown said. One called the Duck. It was named after like this building that would look like a duck, kind of represented what it sold, which was ducks. The thing about it is that the architecture caught your attention. But most of the buildings that we know today, they're called decorated sheds, where it's just a big sign, little building. So most of the buildings that we know that are strip malls are actually decorated sheds, where they really no discerning features on the building, but the sign is there. All strip malls are decorated sheds. If you took away the sign, it's kind of just this really plain, boring building. And that's kind of the thing about it, is that it's just kind of like a shell for any business to come in and kind of take whatever form it needs to. If the American dream was the white picket fence and a house, the commercial American dream was right in front of it is this shopping center where you could buy anything you want and you don't need to go downtown, and everything that you need or would ever want is right in front of you. So time went on and the shopping mall happened. All the businesses start leaving strip mall, and now all these kind of weird businesses start coming into strip malls because of their low rent. And by weird, I mean there's just like a wide array of people, and you know them by now. You got like churches in there, you got lawyers in there, you got fucking whatever this is, I don't know. You could, if you could afford the rent, you could have your own business. You can pick up your bootstraps and buy a space in one of these. But this is where we get to the signs. Like, why do they look like that? When I first started thinking about this video, I hypothesized. I use a scientific method. The first step of a scientific method is hypothesis. I think that's the first step. And I hypothesized that, well, since most of these people have like very limited budgets, they probably have no money for a designer. They probably just had some random kid do it. I was putting all of the onus on creating the sign on the business owner. But is that true? Well, I found out that not exactly. So let's just imagine that we are a aspiring business owner in, just say, Germantown, Tennessee, okay? And you want to open up your own store. Let's say you want to make your own t-shirt store, and you want to open it up in one of the great shopping centers, strip malls in Germantown. And you can see there's a space available right next to Sakura Chai and Asian Eatery. Asian Eatery. Actually, when I was researching this video, I saw this. It says Asian Eatery, right? And I'm like, that seems racist. Like, they just kind of forgot to like, yeah, it's just some generic Asian eatery. We don't know what kind of Asian, just Asian eatery. Right next to massage. But I looked on Google Maps and it's actually called Asian Eatery. That's what's the name of the place. I was like, I guess it isn't racist. So yeah, let's say that you're here, you want to rent the space, you go in, you're like, hey, I want to rent this space. You get it. You get approved, blah, blah, blah. And then you want to make the sign, you know, it says Rams t-shirts or whatever, or overset text shirts, overset text knickknacks. And well, there's some rules you have to follow. So I actually talked to somebody whose job is to make these signs and assist business owners in creating these signs.
Yes, hi. My name is Sabrina Orihuela. I am a graphic designer and I specialize in the sign field. I work at a national sign company where we make electric signs. The ones you see drive down the freeway, the tall monuments, pylons.
There's a lot of rules that was made up by commercial landlords, the actual city itself, and then just the specifications of creating the signs, like the actual physical limits of whatever sign you want to make. They also have like sign size requirements.
Yeah, there's sign criteria you have to follow. Code is extremely important. I know in Southern California it was very strict. But again,
Really?
it depends on also, again, where you're going. So if this small shopping area might have its own sign code. And sometimes that is looked at more than the city.
So for this example, you know, all signs shall comply with sign ordinance city of Germantown. So you got to follow their rules. All tenants shall be mounted individual letters. So you got to have those individual letters like you see, like right here. So instead of the one where it's just like one big plastic sign.
But your base is aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
They have LEDs populated inside. The returns or the sides of it is also aluminum, like an aluminum coil.
Mm-hmm.
Your faces are acrylic.
Yeah.
They can be colored acrylic or they could be white with graphics put on it.
Yeah.
And then what you have is called a trim cap, and that takes the face of the letter and fits over the can, and then that can vary in color, but it looks like an outline.
Oh, okay. So I guess it basically means that like you don't want it too long. Like you don't want a name that says it's too many letters because then it's gonna increase the cost of these signs.
Yeah, you do pay per letter or per square footage of what you're producing.
You have to conceal the mounting so people can't see the mounting, and it shall be mounted 1.5 to 2 inches away from the wall, so it has to be like away. And then now the most important part: what kind of font can we use? Well, we have the choice of Helvetica, and I don't know what medium is. I think was it supposed to be Helvetica medium? I don't know. Clarendon bold, Franklin Gothic, and Castellan bold. And then you have a series of a choice of black, off-white, polished brass, medium bronze, or red, the classic red that everybody likes, the classic red that we see everywhere. So imagine all this. So you could use fonts on your own, but you have to get the approval of the landlord, and also you got to be approved by, in this case in Germantown, the Germantown Design Review Commission. And they are apparently the people who came up with the rules for what kind of fonts that you use. So imagine there's just a design review commission everywhere. So imagine all this, but everybody having different like standards everywhere. So it's just different everywhere. So it's different everywhere, but why is it all the same anyways? So I'm gonna try to call Germantown Design Review Commission right now, live. I'm gonna call them right now. This is gonna be different for every city, but I want to figure out exactly why they decided Helvetica medium, Clarendon bold. Why did they choose that? Because if we could find out why they chose it at this place, it's probably the same everywhere else. 901. All right.
Hello, you have reached Sarah Gorleski with the City of German.
Well, that didn't work, so I guess they don't want to answer my calls, but I'm thinking that since it's kind of the standard for one city, every other city started just copying that, and like, yeah, that works. And if you're the business owner and you're just trying to like get this thing out there, like you want your store, like you have no time to think about what the sign looks like. You're just gonna have to. Some people just kind of like do their own thing, like, hey, I need a sign. Can I just have the standard, like whatever, red, whatever?
They're not in our industry, but they have an idea, and you want to validate everything that they have. So I sit and listen to them, kind of get an idea of what they want. We're on site. We're looking at like their new, we'll say dentist office. And we're like, okay, what do you want to convey? Always asking for price is, what they have to spend. It's always uncomfortable, but just get it out there.
They have things to do, okay? And that isn't graphic design. And they just need to get that sign up there so people know that donuts is available over here. Speaking of donuts, it's kind of getting hot in here. Yeah, can I take off this hoodie? Wow, you were probably saying, "Wow, Ram, that's kind of a cool shirt." Is it possible to get that shirt? Well, it is. You can get this donut shirt and this mug and this poster right now on oversettext.com. Now, this is an ad for myself. Get it? Look at this mug. This mug, isn't that mug cool? You could drink out of it and tell to your friends like, oh, look at me. I know about strip mall signs, the design of it, why it turned out that way. You could get this right now, oversettext.com. All right, that's the end of the ad. So pretty much the answer of why the strip mall signs look like that. These are hardworking business owners that just kind of need to get that sign out there. It's kind of a design meme within that realm where same type of design get replicated. A lot of the standards get copied from one place to another. Why do they all look the same like that? Like,
I would say
is it because
continuity.
people? Oh, okay.
Well, you know how the donuts, there was the documentary where the guy made all the boxes pink. We all know what a donut box is pink. We know exactly what we're getting. And they stay with that simple sans serif font.
Yeah.
And we know what it is. We just, our brains automatically recognize what we're looking at.
I know a lot of us kind of like, a lot of graphic designers that we like, you know, I'm a graphic designer, and you might be like looking down on it and like, well, why would they use this font? Like, why would they use that? Bro, like, I'm just trying to get my store to open. Like, so honestly, I don't trust a place if it's spending way too much time on the look of the sign. Like, why are you spending so much time on graphic design? Shouldn't you be like, I don't know, focusing on being a dentist or cooking the food? Honestly, the best places to eat is like when the sign looks like garbage. Like if the font is bad, usually the food is good. A lot of these shops are just trying to survive, and graphic design is not at the forefront of their minds. So, you know, next time you see a sign, try not to be so hard on it. They're just working class people just trying to get by in this weird place that we live in. So that's the video. Thank you a lot. Thanks so much for Sabrina for talking with me, and no thanks to the town of Germantown for not talking to me. Please buy a shirt, buy a mug, buy a poster. Share it with your friends, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Go out there, and I'm gonna go get a sandwich now. All right, bye.